It's about June 26th. We're here at Mountain Gardens in the woods on the edge of the rich cove forest. And we're standing in some little terraces that I built to experiment with growing some wild edibles. So they're wild, so why grow them? Well, in the case of this one, the Indian cucumber root, the idea is to see if we can grow a slightly bigger root than what you find just out in the woods. Indian cucumber root is Medeola virginiana, I think it is. It's a beautiful plant. It grows in somewhat drier woods, not actually right in the richest part of the cove, but usually a little bit up the slope where it's slightly drier, maybe where the poplar and cove hardwoods give way to the oaks and hickories. You'll find sometimes big patches of this Indian cucumber root. It gets most noticeable in the autumn when these upper leaves will turn bright red and it'll have the shiny blue-black berries up here. The flower is fairly insignificant. Here's the flower. It's very attractive if you did like a 10x magnification. It'd be a beautiful little flower. So the flowers are dangling down under that top whorl of leaves, and then as they are pollinated and start to make a berry, they come upwards to the top. So what we want to do is get rid of these. Oops, that was a mistake. Actually, all I wanted to do was pick out off the fruits and the flowers. So, as I started to say, the issue with this plant is it's a really delicious edible which any gourmet restaurant would be proud to serve, but the roots are really a bit too small to be economically practical to dig. So we're trying to do various experiments with seeing if we can grow slightly bigger roots. One experiment is to try removing the flowers or fruit, which is something the Chinese do with, for example, ginseng or anything else they want to grow big roots of. They'll take away the flowers, so all the energy, all the photosynthetic energy for the rest of the season is not going to go into ripening the fruit. It's going to go into making, hopefully, a bigger root. Here's another one over here. So a lot of these I did earlier on in the season when see, these are already making berries, so it's not ideal. Yeah, it doesn't have any flowers down there. And these make colonies in the woods. You rarely see one. You usually see a bunch together. They kind of spread out underground. And so that's what they look like when you dig them up at this time of year. However, I have found them that are this big as my thumb, which makes all the difference in the world in terms of the practicality of going out and harvesting these. Of course, the reason we're interested in that is we're constantly looking for ways to derive a little bit of income and or food from our woodlands. So there's this whole concept of non-timber forest products, which they're using like in the rainforest to convince the natives not to cut down all the trees because otherwise they can derive a sustainable harvest of medicinal herbs and edible plants and so on if they don't log the forest and turn it into cattle pasture. Well, the same situation applies in the temperate zone. People are tempted to just sell off the timber. But there's a lot of interesting things that can be grown and derive a sustainable year-to-year income. So that's the sort of thing we're looking for, Solomon seal, and that's one of the reasons why I'm interested in growing medicinal herbs, because a lot of them will grow in the woods. In fact, almost all the famous southern Appalachian herbs are woodland herbs. So this is the root of Indian cucumber root. Here's some little small ones. And we're trying various experiments with spacing them out, with fertilizing them maybe a little bit, possibly irrigation. But the main thing I'm trying is just removing the flowers and seeing if we can get them to be a little bit bigger. They are very abundant. Here you can see they're making a whole little colony here. But they transplant very poorly. These are probably going to disappear right away. They'll not be dead, but they won't come back till next year. So it's not really very satisfactory to try and dig them up and move them around. So that's Indian cucumber root, Medeola virginiana, dryish woods, but still they want a decent amount of leaf mold in the soil. And germination is not all that easy. We plant the fruit fresh, but a lot of times sometimes it'll germinate the first spring, but oftentimes it'll take 2 years to germinate.